All right, so get this. Picture the scene. The Dodgers, they've just clinched the NLCS. They're celebrating, champagne's flowing everywhere, and then, bam, Max Muncy lets loose.
Yeah, it's, that really kind of encapsulates the whole intensity of these playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Dodgers just battled their way past the Padres, Cub series to punch their ticket to the NLCS.
Right.
But for Muncy, the euphoria of victory seemed intertwined with something else.
Right.
Almost like a need to silence the doubters.
Yeah, and he did not mince words. Our source article highlights this stat. 80% of experts predicted the Dodgers wouldn't even make it to this point.
Yeah.
That seems to be what really lit Muncy's fuse. He basically said, and forgive me for paraphrasing here, to all the people who thought we couldn't do it, we're the best team in baseball.
Yeah, what's fascinating about that is this wasn't just some heat-of-the-moment outburst, fueled by champagne and adrenaline.
Right.
You see the Dodgers, for all their regular season success, they haven't clinched a World Series title since 2020.
Right.
So that adds another layer of pressure and expectation.
Yeah.
They've got this reputation for choking in the playoffs that they desperately want to shed.
Which is kind of crazy considering how dominant they've been in the regular season.
I know.
It's this constant pressure, this weight on their shoulders to finally get over that hump.
Exactly. And the article even mentions how the Padres were in their heads.
Oh, really?
Playing mind games throughout the series.
Wow.
So you can imagine how satisfying that Game 5 victory must felt for Muncy and the Dodgers.
Yeah.
To not only win, but to completely shut them out. It's a powerful statement.
Okay, so let's rewind to Game 5 for a second. Dominant pitching performance by the Dodgers. They shut out the Padres.
Right.
But their offense wasn't exactly lighting it up that night.
Right. And that actually makes Muncy's outburst even more intriguing. Was he suggesting they had something to prove, even with a relatively quiet night from their bats? Did this dominant win, even without a huge offensive explosion, validate their claim to being the best team? It adds a whole other layer to unpack.
It's like they're saying, hey, we don't have to score a ton of runs to beat you guys. Our pitching alone is enough. Talk about a power move.
Right.
And the article actually called the entire Dodgers-Padres series what playoff baseball should be, highlighting the excitement, the animosity, that back-and-forth battle.
Absolutely. And you can feel that energy radiating from Muncy's words.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about winning that game. It was about proving a point.
Yeah.
It's almost as if he was saying, we told you so, and we'll keep proving it.
Okay, so speaking of proving it, the Dodgers are now gearing up to face the Mets in the NLCS.
Right.
And our source article suggests this series could be just as intense and exciting as the Padres matchup.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a classic coast-to-coast showdown.
Yeah.
And, there's an intriguing individual rivalry kind of woven into this narrative as well.
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani versus Francisco Lindor.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Ohtani, the front runner for NL MVP, with Lindor potentially as the runner-up. So now, on top of this team rivalry, we've got the two best players in the National League going head-to-head in the NLCS. Talk about pressure.
Exactly. And it adds this whole other level of intrigue to this series.
Right.
These aren't just two guys battling for individual accolades.
Yeah.
They're the heart and soul of their respective teams.
Right.
Their performance could very well determine who comes out on top.
Yeah, it's like a whole other level of competition within the competition. You've got the team rivalry, the individual star power, and then the added pressure of the playoffs.
It's a recipe for some truly compelling baseball.
Yeah.
But let's circle back to Muncy for a moment.
Okay.
Our source article doesn't really pass judgment on his outburst.
Right.
Some might see it as justified passion, while others might call it unprofessional. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, on the one hand, you have this incredibly talented athlete who's poured his heart and soul into getting to this point.
Right.
They've faced doubt, criticism, and they've come out on top. It's easy to see how those emotions could boil over, especially in the heat of the moment.
Right. And let's not forget, this wasn't a press conference. This was a celebratory locker room moment.
Right.
It was raw, it was unfiltered, and it was probably amplified by the adrenaline and camaraderie of the situation.
It's a question that goes beyond baseball, doesn't it?
Right.
In today's world where every word is analyzed and amplified on social media, how much are we allowed to be our true, unfiltered selves, especially when those emotions are messy and raw? It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. Honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer.
Right.
It's something we grapple with all the time, even outside of sports. But shifting gears back to the game, one thing's for sure. Muncy's outburst has certainly added another layer of intrigue to this Dodgers-Mets matchup.
Absolutely.
The Dodgers are heading into this NLCS with a chip on their shoulder, and they've already silenced a lot of critics.
Right.
But the Mets are a formidable opponent, and this series is sure to be a battle.
So for our listeners today, as you're watching this series unfold, I want you to consider this. Do you think Muncy was speaking for the entire team when he made that statement?
Right.
Was it a reflection of a collective chip on their shoulder, or was it more about his own personal frustrations bubbling over?
Yeah. It's a question worth pondering because it speaks to the dynamics within a team.
Right.
Were his words a glimpse into the collective mindset of the Dodgers? Or was this Muncy's own way of expressing the weight of expectations?
Right.
It's something to keep in mind as we watch this team navigate the triumphs and setbacks that lie ahead.
Yeah, it's like we're witnessing a bit of baseball psychology in action.
Absolutely.
You've got the team dynamics, the individual personalities, and this intense pressure cooker of a playoff atmosphere all colliding on a national stage.
And it reminds us that even for these elite athletes, it's not just about physical skill.
Right.
It's about mental fortitude, emotional resilience, and the ability to perform under immense pressure.
Well said. So as we gear up for this Dodgers-Mets showdown, remember, it's not just about who's got the better stats on paper. It's about who can harness those emotions, who can stay composed when the stakes are highest, and who can ultimately rise to the occasion.
Because at its core, that's what makes sports so captivating. It's a microcosm of human drama filled with triumphs and setbacks, calculated risks, and raw emotions. And that's what keeps us on the edge of our seats coming back for more.
For sure.